Okay guys, welcome back to my channel. This is video 2 on DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. So in my first video, I went over the purpose of the series, why understanding DAOs is important. I did a general overview. I did DAOs compared to the old system, and I also went over a brief history. This video, I'm going to go in depth on how they work, how DAOs work, issues with them, and then a DAO model that will go into my general evaluation model for how I evaluate projects, which will become an iterative process over time, which means the model will get better and better. But it's from my current awareness of DAO modeling the way I see them now with what I am aware of. So first off, how do DAOs work? Basically, this is a simplified version, but DAOs vote. It's people voting for. So basically, what you have is the DAO logic is some code, right? It's code, and if you want new code, you have the DAO is some code, and it has a pointer that points to the code, and that's where the computer knows to go to read the logic that is the DAO, right? So this is where the computer goes. This is the starting point, and then the computer reads the code. And so the DAO voting component controls the pointer. So the pointer points to a current version, and then people vote for a new version. And so what they do is they move the pointer to a new logic, right? So it might be pointing to a current version, and the voters move it to a new version. And that's just a super simple way of looking at it. And then there's a filter. Every DAO should have this. And what it is, it's a vetting and testing process, either a test environment, and it ensures the code works as intended. So you make sure that the code that is even votable has already been made and has already been tested. It's been technically reviewed in a test environment, etc., for viability. So this filter stops any bad logic, any DAO logic that potentially is harmful to not pass. And only logic that is worth voting on can pass. And then the members of the DAO can vote where this pointer points to, whether it reads this code or this code. These are two different versions or another version, which could have one small change. It could be many changes, etc. So that's how you as a token holder can be in control of a DAO, is by block, and then at a certain block, it shifts the code that it's reading to a new one. And that's the way it works. Based on the state of a vote. And it snaps into a new reality for the DAO. Regarding the design, a general look at it, a DAO needs to have good token economics. I mean, we're interested in making money, at least the people who follow this channel or in general. You might be interested in the technology, but if you want to make money, the token has to be involved. But the things involved are the token economics, smart contracts, governance, and reputations. And it needs to have all of these things, otherwise it will not be a DAO. Like if it's smart contracts and governance and doesn't have reputations and token economics, you can imagine the issues that would come from that, or any other combination, such as token economics, smart contracts without governance. Some projects look like that. But a DAO has all of these elements. And basically, token economics could be NFTs or tokens, and how that token relates to the structure, the code of the DAO, and the behavior of the token. The smart contracts are basically the code design. The governance is the specific details of governance. And reputations is the quality of power, or trustees, persons acting on the behalf of the DAO, such as allowing the DAO to own real estate, etc. Also, some thoughts. We will need government framework, and governments that recognize DAOs as legal entities will thrive. So it's very important that if you're evaluating DAOs, and if they have some kind of location, or if they decide to own real estate or whatever, they need to be in a government that recognizes DAOs as legal entities. And the governments that do recognize DAOs as legal entities will probably thrive in the, you know, like the most successful government. And it looks like America is not being super oppressive. I mean, maybe they're just bluffing, like playing a game of chicken as they roll out whatever regulation. Who knows? Who knows how this is going to roll out? But that's just a general overview there. So major issues. One of the things that could be a critical error that happens is correct representation. Must represent the correct people, must represent the correct parties involved. So this is an error in a DAO that caused the destruction of an entire platform. So DAOs must be free of critical design errors or correct representations, or they are doomed. And they have to be that way from the start. They have to start out correctly. If your governance model has a flaw of representation from the beginning, it will never change, because the people who have power will never choose to change that power. And EOS is an example of this. They had certain individuals could be represented through their DAO that shouldn't be represented through the DAO, and they would never vote themselves out, so it was permanently destroyed from the get-go because of poor design. So EOS let people who did not buy into the system to vote by placing no protections against exchange voting. This caused EOS to only represent people who did not buy EOS, just sold EOS and funds and treasuries and income for themselves. And they didn't have any long-term thinking because they didn't buy EOS. It was a bunch of people who brought EOS to their exchange, and they would simply vote for the BPs, vote for the policies that enrich themselves at the cost of the token holders, because they didn't have to buy any tokens. So the token holders were not represented by this flaw. Also, EOS had 32 votes per token. This means that exchange vote in the top 32 representatives rather than just one token for one vote. So once EOS started out this way, it was impossible to change. The incentives to change were impossible. You know, show me the incentives and I'll show you the results. So you have to look at the incentives when evaluating a DAO. To vote for an exchange vote, to vote out their own power. So, you know, like individuals would not vote their own power out. You know, and so this is a general view. So the way EOS works is the 21 top producers are the ones who are voted in. And its structure was one token, 32 votes. So a super wealthy account controlled all these top 32. So it's like one person controlling the whole thing. And you know what? That's not necessarily a bad thing if you trust that one party, but it's like investing in a regular company, etc. But if you don't trust them, which in this case it was the exchanges who didn't buy any of the tokens, so it was highly destructive to the future of EOS, and that's why EOS has been doing nothing, and it's pretty much destroyed from my perspective. But if EOS had done one little difference in its governance design, even if they had screwed up and allowed for exchanges to vote, even if they screwed that up, if they would have had one token, one vote, the exchanges would have had much less power. You know, they might have even had this whole section, but there would have been other groups represented rather than all the groups controlled by one entity. And so, and yes, these guys probably would have not had the interest of EOS at hand because they are not token holders, but some of the people representing the interest of the token holders would have been people who actually bought EOS, which would have made it far more successful. But that was a critical flaw that happened in EOS. Another flaw potential. So I have these things rated from 1 to 10. I say that is a critical error number 10. If you see a blockchain, I even sold Algorand because they are making that flaw as well, allowing exchanges to vote. People who did not buy the tokens to vote. That makes no sense. Okay. Now regarding apathy, I put this as not as bad as the previous one. It's like a 3 out of 10. And that's basically lack of participation. So BitShares, for example, is often experiences lack of participation. This makes sense because being informed is costly. This issue it's not a critical area because as long as those who decide to have the token value in mind, it doesn't matter if everyone is represented. So yeah, it doesn't matter if everyone's represented as long as those who are represented have the same interests as those who are just token holders. Basically, token holders have to have their interests represented in order for the token to have a chance of doing well. All that matters is that those who do have control need it through the token, or that you trust them and they are strategic in strategy for the performance of the token. Also, proxy voting may solve this issue to some extent as well. So now another thing to work. So proxy voting is when I can take my vote and give it to someone else in the community, and so all the voting flows to individuals who are highly respected in the community, and people's positions could be represented well. And so that is what proxy voting is. So finally, another potential issue is entropy. That's accumulation of disorder. So it's a physics idea, but it applies to pretty much anything through time. And it is a less probable state moving to a more probable state. And basically, the distribution of these, let's say, atoms in a box are more probable to be in a chaotic position. Well, basically, we know from the way the universe works is chaos. Things trend towards chaos unless they have a mechanism to fix the accumulation of entropy. So DAOs self-modify no matter how well they are designed. They must reset to clear out the accumulation of bad policy. So there must be some mechanism for allowing this. This is an inherent property of the universe. Competitive free market systems will kill your DAO if it accumulates too much damage or does not have a process to reinvent itself when the time comes. So you must look at a DAO and it must have a process for when it's becoming no longer competitive. It has to restructure or have a process to do so. All right, so that's basically top-down issues. Now I'm going to go to understand more of the issues, we're going to go more into depth and look at a model for DAO structure. So the goal of a DAO is to produce the best possible decisions for market acquisition and represent interests of the token holders. So in essence, how do we produce the best possible problem-solving system that grows in value? So all a DAO is a structure that you want to make the best decisions possible for the future of the project and reaching the best representation of that for the token holders. So a general high overview model that I have here is there's 3 different types of cryptos that you can invest in, or entities: low decentralization, medium decentralization, and high decentralization. All of them are capable of doing well, and all of them are capable of failing. I've made excellent wins by picking low decentralization projects because there's a bias towards everybody wanting a high decentralized project. That's irrelevant. The only thing you care about is whether the token will do well. And we'll look at the conditions of how a low distributed network could work and make us money versus medium to high decentralized networks. So let's start off with the low decentralized network. So if you are investing in something that is a low decentralized network, it is extremely important that the CEO and the team are high quality, 100%. They have to be high quality, and you are placing 100% trust in the team. So you have to vet them to your ability. It's okay to trust people. The token must be tied to success in this scenario as well. Make sure the token is designed properly, but this requires trust. A centralized system requires trust. And guess what? Every day you get in your car, you trust someone to behave a certain way. You expect people to behave traffic laws. Nothing works without trust. So it is okay to trust people. Some people make that mistake. They think, everything's going to be run by code. No, you're going to trust humans. That's part of life. And that's as long as humans talk to each other. Trusting people is a very strategic strategy to take, but you have to make sure that you trust, getting in your car, you trust the average person to behave traffic laws, because otherwise, that wouldn't work. In this, you make sure that you're vetting the team and you trust them, and that the token's tied to the success of the platform, and then you know that they're going to make high quality actions and you can win from that strategy. Celsius would be this approach. Celsius is an excellent project. It's like a traditional company. A medium so as well, one thing I will say is these crypto projects can move between these. They can go from high to medium to low if they need to reset, if they need to fix things, or they can go from low to medium to high. They can go back and forth depending on if they need to. Many projects start off this way and they move this way, and that's fine. And so you trust them at first, and what you're doing is you're trusting them to set up the code that will run it later. So let's look at what medium and high would be. So in medium distributed systems, you trust the incentives of major token holders, because there's going to be big players in this one. But there's not going to be one, there's going to be big players. It is extremely important that those who bought are represented, and a token must be tied to the success. So, that's the case for all of them. The token must be tied to the success. But you must definitely trust the incentives of the major token holders. You have to say, are the major token holders going to dump on me, or are they going to hold? Solana is this one. Solana is a medium. So is Polkadot. So is many of the other ones. Polkadot's moving in this direction. Solana is this one right now. And you have to ask the question, do you trust them not to dump on you in the future? Are the incentives proper that they won't do that? You're basically trusting a bunch of, a group of people, but it's not one entity, it's a couple. And I would say, Polkadot would be over here, Solana would be over here, Ethereum would be this one. So Ethereum is an example. Ethereum is an example of high decentralization. And what you're looking for when you trust something that's high decentralized, you're trusting the design of the code incentives, like Bitcoin. Bitcoin is high decentralized. You're trusting the code. Design of the DAO code is extremely important. And if you're looking for something that's going to be innovative, it has to be designed to push things that way. So this one you trust the code, this one you trust the incentives of the code / people, and this one you basically trust the team. So for low, we know that it's basically trust-based. With these two, they run into, you need a mechanism of quality. Those who are qualified to make referendums or make changes. This is also a filter. This is basically a filter mechanism like we looked at right here. You need filters to ensure that the code that gets through or that is proposed is quality stuff. So these need to have a mechanism of quality assurance. A mechanism to assure for apathy, time lock, weight of vote, and technical groups selected by representatives. And ultimately, the most important thing is token must have ultimate control. The token must be those who are represented. If this is not the case, I wouldn't touch it ever, because the token's not tied to anything. So the things that ensure the mechanism of quality are technical groups selected by representatives. Will often be technical themselves. So basically, token voters can vote for a technical group, and or they can vote for representatives who choose the technical group, or they vote for trusted people to be technical. And those technical people evaluate referendums. This is one of the most important things I've ever seen, and no one does it except for Polkadot as far as I know. This right here. I've never seen another project do it besides the Polkadot ecosystem, and that is time, lock, wait to vote. If you lock up your tokens for long periods of time, you get a heavier vote. That is long-term thinking, strategic time horizon. If I lock up my tokens for 1 year, I get a 2x multiplier. If I lock it up for 5 years, I get a 16x multiplier. That is great. That means I have a long time horizon. And that is in Polkadot, for instance. I don't know of anyone else who does that. Please comment below if you know of anyone else who does that. I will look at the project gladly. But no one does that. And it's amazing to me because this is one of the most important design aspects you can have in your project. Not only does it make your token more scarce, but it also makes sure that people have a long time horizon, something that is definitely missing in the world today. One of the most underrated components of a DAO. Okay, and then finally, apathy solutions, solutions for apathy, and token must be in ultimate control, and what we expect is high quality actions to fall out of that. All right. So that is my DAO model as it stands right now. I'm going to evaluate projects in the future as time goes by, and I'll try to edit this if I need to add any other components if I identify them. Now, that being said, I'm going to look at an example of a really good DAO, which is you've probably heard me say it several times. Polkadot, the best governance that I've seen in the crypto space. Extremely underrated project. I don't think a lot of people understand how well the design of Polkadot really is. But regarding Polkadot has, if you look at the governance from what I evaluated earlier, I said Polkadot is like a medium project, and so that it goes down this pathway. And so let's look at the apathy solution. They have adaptive quorum biasing. So like if everyone votes, it's going to be 51% needed to pass. If very few votes, it's going to have to be more ubiquitous, like more quantity. So they have adaptive quorum biasing, and a majority council is needed to pass referendums. If less people vote, like in a small amount of the council votes, then it has to be 100% pass rate kind of thing. The less people that vote, the more ubiquitous, the more, like the further away from 51% has to be. So that's one of their apathy solutions, for example. I'm being simple here. So that is that. Regarding their technical review group, what they have here is Polkadot's way to filter dysfunctional referendums is basically when you vote right here, when you vote, the token holders are in ultimate control. When they vote for the council members. And the council members, these are representatives of the DOT holders. They can propose referendums. And these council members vote for technical committees. They assign the technical committee, which is a separate entity, which is programmers who build Polkadot and can evaluate referendums. And these guys can send referendums of their own, but ultimately the token overrides everything. The token can override anything. The token is the ultimate voice in this platform. But that's their design around ensuring that there's a filter for high quality developer stuff. Now, regarding time lock wait to vote, I don't know if anyone else does this. Please comment below if you know of any other project that does this. But basically, if you lock up your tokens, you get heavier vote, and that makes it long-term thinking in the future of the platform. Extremely undervalued. I don't see that anywhere else. That's why I think that it has a strategic edge, at least in governance and in design, which has been excellent. Whatever. I'm not trying to be an advertisement here. I try to be as unbiased as possible. It's just the way I see things. And then, some regarding token must be ultimate control. Well, you can see right here in Polkadot's governance that you can override anything. You can override anything from the ultimate authority. The token holders are the ultimate authority. They majority of the token, they control everything. So they have literally every single concern that you could think of addressed in Polkadot governance. And so that's why I think it's high. Like, this is a high value governance model, and everything's green. And I don't know of any other project that has that. But that's based on the model that I've been able to assess from my years in the space, and even I was seeking out research in the area, and this is what I came up with. All right, guys. So if you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe. This is my overview of DAOs, and then I'm going to try to go find good projects to review. And later.